Alright, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and today we have a little bit of a POV driving, Mark talking, stinking, and slapping around the bushes video today. We're going to be going over all the cars that me, Marcus of the Rodent, personally wants to drive. These are all cars that I have never driven in my life, obviously, and they're cars that I would kill a man in order to drive them if I was given the chance. Spoiler alert, there are multiple BMWs on this list because I like BMWs, okay? All right, but there's a little bit of everything, if I'm being honest. I just wrote down like a bunch that came to my mind in my notes. I could be missing a couple for sure. Jesus, that sun was bright AF. But I could definitely be missing a couple of them. So don't take this as like a definitive list. They're just a couple cars that I decided, you know what? Those are probably pretty cool cars to drive. So we're gonna get started. First car is literally any Koenigsegg. Now, obviously this is a big one, a little bit of a hard to achieve one. There's not a lot of people that own Koenigsegg's out there. There's not a lot of people that will let me drive their Koenigsegg out there. There's not a lot of people I know that have a Koenigsegg. As a matter of fact, the amount of people that I know who have a Koenigsegg is a big fat zero. I don't know a single person in the world that has a Koenigsegg. So I'm not very close to achieving this dream yet, but who knows, maybe I'll own one day. Then I won't have to worry about asking somebody. They're obviously like $2 million hypercars. The reason why I want to drive one is because you got to experience a hypercar in your life, and if I'm going to experience one, it's going to be a Koenigsegg. I love what Koenigsegg does. There's not a single Koenigsegg out there that I don't think is cool, so that's why I picked Koenigsegg. For another hypercar though, another one that I would definitely not mind driving at all, literally probably this next car, the McLaren P1, is probably my dream car besides the FD RX-7. The FD RX-7, I love everything about it, but the McLaren P1 is absolutely gorgeous. If it wasn't like $2 million, I would have it by now. But wow, they're beautiful cars, dude. I love everything about the McLaren P1. If I was able to drive a McLaren P1, I would be the happiest man in the world. Now, obviously, once again, that's a little bit unrealistic because there's not a lot of people that own McLaren P1s, and the amount of people that I know that do own one are, again, zero people that I know. So probably not in my near future that's going to happen, but one can hope, okay? One can hope. I absolutely love the McLaren P1. And before you're like, well, what about the McLaren F1? I mean, I'd personally rather drive the P1. I think it's newer, it's better looking, it handles probably better, it's probably more comfortable to drive. I think I personally like the P1 better. I know that the F1 is more legendary and its status is way more impactful than the P1, but I personally would rather drive the P1. So before you get your panties in a bunch, I would personally rather drive it. Now the next car is a car that's actually very realistic, a car that I could probably even own one day if I keep grinding hard enough, and it is the BMW F8X chassis. That is the BMW M3 and M4. That is the previous generation, not the current generation that's out right now. I obviously love BMW and I want to drive every M3 ever built, but if I could only drive one, the one I would want to drive is the F80. I love the F80. I love how it looks. Everybody that has ever driven one says it handles like an absolute monster. It's incredibly fast. It's obviously one of the fastest M3s besides the newest one. And in terms of the M4, it's just everything that's great about the M3, but better, because it looks cooler. I would love to drive that. I would absolutely love to experience the best that Germany can produce. And in my opinion, the best that Germany can produce are BMWs. Well, besides Porsche, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I freaking love BMW with all my heart. BMW is absolutely my favorite car brand, even though I'm driving an Acura and I have a Nissan 350Z. Yes, I know it's a little bit hard to understand, but yes, BMW is my favorite car brand. I love them. I love everything about them. They're beautiful cars. They sound amazing. They handle amazing. Their interior is amazing. They're comfortable. I've driven a couple BMWs that are just like base models in my life, and even those are just otherworldly. So I love BMW. I would love to drive the M3 or M4 F8. But another BMW that I would love to drive would be the BMW M6 F13. The F13 in general is such a bargain deal right now. You can find F13s that aren't the M6, obviously, just like the base model F13s, for less than $20,000 all day, and that is just abysmally mind-blowing to me, dude. They are literally like the pinnacle of BMW in my opinion. Like the 7 Series and the 8 Series BMWs are obviously more expensive than the 6 Series BMWs because they're better, but in my opinion the 7 Series is way more towards luxury and the 8 Series is way too expensive. The 6 Series is a perfect middle ground. It has a bunch of luxury in it, but it's still incredibly fast and powerful and sporty. And I love that. I freaking love that. They need to come out with another M6 because I love the 6 Series. As a matter of fact, another BMW, that's the last BMW, I promise this is the last BMW on this list that I would love to drive, but the last BMW on this list is another 6 Series. It's the 635 CSI E24, which is technically the first ever 6 Series, and it's that shark nose one. Yeah, I'll obviously have a picture up on the screen, or maybe even a video or something up on the screen right now of the car, what it looks like. But I love it. I think it's gorgeous, and I would love to see like where my favorite car brand kind of started. I know that that's not technically its start. There's a bunch of BMWs before that 6 Series, but it's one of the earlier models of BMW, especially when they started to try and get like their cars to be sporty too. Oh my god. Ooh, another BMW that I just thought of though that I would love to drive is the 3.0 CSL. That's the last one, I promise, but the 3.0 CSL, oh my god, I would kill a man! I would kill a man to drive that thing. That thing is gorgeous. I don't care what anybody says, the 3.0 CSL is gorgeous. It is, oh my god, it's so amazing. And it's obviously very good in track performance as well. That is, oh my god, how did I forget about that car? Alright, we're gonna go up this road because it's near my house and it's a very fun, nice little cruising road, but there's a bit of an issue because this road is not plowed as frequently as the other roads, so there might be some debris, which there is right there. But either way, moving on, I can drive a little bit slow on this road. I don't have to pay, oh goodness, oh my goodness, this might have been a bad idea. So the first American car is the Chevy Corvette C7. The reason why I want to drive the C7 is because for the longest time I wanted to drive the C5. Then my uncle bought a C5 that was cammed and made like 450 horsepower, and he let me drive it. And I freaking loved it. It was an automatic, and I still absolutely loved it. That car's a monster. It's an absolute beast. And so after I drove the C5, I was like, I need to see what else Corvette can do. And the next best one, in my opinion, is the C7. This is going to be a little bit of an issue here. I'm going to pull into this snow, let this guy go by me. There we go. The next best one besides the C5 in my opinion is the C7. I absolutely love the C7. It looks cool, it handles incredibly. Oh, the C7. I once again, I don't really have much of a reason as to why I want to drive the C7 so bad, besides the fact that I drove a C5, I loved the C5, and now I know that the C7 is probably everything that's great about the C5, but a little bit better, and that just makes me want to drive it even more. Corvette in general, I want to drive like every single Corvette ever made besides the C4. So the reason why I'm going so slow on this road, by the way, guys, is because there's so much snow mountains, so I can't see like what's ahead of me, and this road is very tight. So if a car comes, we're screwed. So I kind of have to like go a little bit slow. Sorry that I can't give the Integra the beans today, but either way, yeah, C7 Corvette, absolute dream drive of my personal opinion. The next American car is another Chevy, actually, and it is the Chevy Camaro 1969. I know, it's a little bit odd because all my other cars have been like modern sports cars and like little supercars and stuff like that so far, but my dad, his whole life has his absolute dream car is the 69 Camaro. He loves it. He loves everything about that car. And so my whole life I've kind of been raised on the idea that the 69 Camaro is an amazing car. And it is an amazing car. Everything I've ever seen online about people talking about the 69 Camaro are positive things. And so I would love to drive one. And I just want to be able to experience what that old 60s muscle was all about. Like everybody raves about that 60s muscle, those old big block Chevys and all that stuff. And I want to be able to experience it and see what it's all about. And I think the best way to do that would be in a 69 Camaro. And it's just so cool. Like it's just so vintage. There's so much stuff in it that like isn't like I have so much features in my Integra compared to the cars back then, and this is like a very normal average car in terms of features. So I just want to experience that. I don't know. But the next American car is the Dodge Viper ACR. To be honest, I want to experience every Dodge Viper besides the very first generation. The very first generation, everybody says, is an absolute nightmare to drive, and I know that some people like that kind of stuff where it's like if it's really hard to drive, they enjoy driving it more because it like gives them a challenge. And that's cool. I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. It's more manly than my excuse. But I don't like that. I like to be able to drive the car, have it grip, and be able to really push myself and the car in terms of its handling, rather than having to worry about if the car is going to spin out on me. That's why I love the Integra so much, is because it grips so well, and it handles like an absolute beast, especially compared to my 350Z. Like, I can just like cut up these little tight corners here and just with no issues whatsoever, and I love that about it. And so I would love to experience a Viper that's at least can handle a little bit better than that one can. And I know all Vipers have a little bit of a tendency to oversteer like crazy, and they are a lot harder to control than a normal supercar is, but I think the newer ones are probably more stable than the old ones are. Although I would love to drive a second generation. Those are my most beautiful, in my opinion. Oh my god, they're gorgeous cars. And they have V10s. Oh, I love everything about Dodge Vipers. So I want to drive one. I want to experience the Viper. Every time I see a Viper in real life, I kind of poop in my pants a little bit. So yeah, Viper absolutely is a car I would love to drive. I think that's it for the American cars. Let's move on to the last of the German cars before we get into the JDM cars. The last of the German cars is the 911 GT3 RS. I just downshifted into second when I meant to downshift. Or I meant to shift into third. I don't know what I'm doing here. But the last one is the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. If you have been on the internet in the past like 2 months, you have seen all the love that the GT3 RS has been getting recently. And the only reason why I really want to drive the car is just to make sure that it lives up to that hype. Like, everybody loves the GT3 RS right now, and they're all like, oh, it's the best handling car for its money. I just want to see if that's true. Like, I want to be able to experience that. If it's actually that good at handling, if it handles like an actual race car, I would love to experience that. And Porsche is really good at making incredible cars, so I would love to drive that. Another car, by the way, that I would love to experience once, but I would never buy in a million years, so don't worry, I'm not that kind of guy, but is the Tesla Model S Plaid. Now, I know I'm a car guy, and I just said I would like to drive an electric car, but the reason why is because everybody always says that the acceleration in those cars is insane because of the torque. It has instant torque, so it's an electric car, and the acceleration is crazy. It's the fastest acceleration in the world. Well, I want to experience that. I want to be blown back in my seat at least once or twice. I would never want to own one because it's a Tesla and they don't have a good top speed and they can't handle well at all. But I want to experience that incredible, like, whoa, like you're getting pushed back into like warp mode. I want to experience that. So hate me if you want, but I want to experience it at least once. So I would love to drive a Tesla Model S Plaid. It'd be pretty cool. So JDM has obviously always kind of been my favorite. I'm really starting to, as I get older, get into the Euro cars a lot more. I just think that they have like a perfect mixture of what makes everything great. But the reason why I love JDM cars so much is because they're usually rear-wheel drive and they're usually a manual transmission. Now, going into JDM cars and the ones I would like to drive. Obviously, I would like to drive a Mark IV Supra. I think anybody would. I know I'm a JDM kid because I want to drive a Mark IV Supra. I don't care, man, okay? I want to drive it. Everybody says it's good. Everybody says they drive amazingly. They don't handle that well, apparently, but they have like such a cool little cockpit. It's all like aimed towards you. It feels like you're flying in an airplane. I want to experience that, and it's got the 2JZ. Obviously, I'd like it to be a little bit tuned. I wouldn't want to drive like a 1,000 horsepower one because I'd be like too scared of crashing it. But I would like to drive one that's modified a little bit, maybe make 600 horsepower or something, and be able to experience that 2JZ two-step and the insane nature of the Mark IV Supra. I want to experience it. I think everybody does. If you say you don't, you're just lying to be a little bit different. All right, we all know it. Okay, the Mark IV Supra is a cool car, and I would love to drive it one day. And another very obvious one is the FD RX-7. I said in the beginning of this video that the FD RX-7 is my dream car. I obviously want to drive my dream car. It is everything about the FD RX-7 I love. I want to be able to hear that rap, 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 rap. Apparently, it actually isn't that comfortable to drive. It's a very small car. It's on the smaller end for sure. But I'm okay with that. I don't really care. It's not gonna. Even if I bought one, it wouldn't be like my daily driver, obviously, because it's a rotary. So I wouldn't have to worry about being super comfortable in it. And this car is small too, especially for a 6'1" guy like myself. It's not easy to sit in like a car like this and be super comfortable, and I'm okay with it. So I'm sure I'll be all right with driving the FD RX-7. I want to drive it. It has pop-up headlights, handles incredibly. The RX-7s are really famous for handling really well, and it has a rotary in it, and it's my absolute dream car. Give me the FD RX-7, please. The next one is a drift ready, like a drift spec S13. Obviously, everybody drifts S13s, and I want to see why. Is it good? Is it as good as people say? Or is it just popular because it was so cheap back in the day, so everybody bought them, and now everybody thinks that they're really good just because everybody bought them just because they were cheap. Even though they're not really that good, they just bought them because they were cheap. Also, I still think they are really good, and I would like to experience drifting a very good drift car once in my life at least. And then the next JDM car would be a very high horsepower Miata. The reason why I say that is because I've actually been in a very high horsepower Miata, for its size at least. It was only making like 250 horsepower, but for a Miata, that's insane. Jesus. By the way, this clutch is like next to dead. That's why I'm having troubles here. But yeah, I drove, my friend Zach had a turbocharged Miata, and it was making I think like 220 horsepower or something, and he got on it and it was absolutely ridiculous. It felt off the chain. I would love to drive one of those myself, but with a little bit more than his. His was super fast for sure, but it wasn't like I'm gonna kill you if you step on the gas in the wrong way kind of fast. And I would like to experience that in a Miata. It's also like such an adrenaline rush when driving in a Miata that fast, because they're so tiny, and you know if you crash, you're just gone. And that's scary, I know, but like in a way it's a little bit like enjoyable. Adrenaline rushes are enjoyable to me. And then finally the last car that I would like to drive, that I have written at least, once again I'm sure I could think of some more if I really sat down and gave myself some time. But the next car I would love to drive would be, actually, I just came up with another one, but I'm going to go over the other one I have right now real quick. The 3000 GT VR4. The 3000 GT VR4 had all these, like, awesome high-tech stuff on it. Obviously, I would like to drive one that's working. A lot of the parts that they had on them, like the active aero, the four-wheel steering, all that stuff actually doesn't work nowadays because they break so easily. So I would love to drive one where all that stuff does work and I could experience it all. That would be so cool. My dad has a Dodge Stealth VR4, and it's really cool, but it didn't come with all those like bits on it, so I haven't, and I never even driven it either. It's kind of has a little bit of an issue, but yeah, I would love to drive that. But then the last car is a little bit of a weird one, and I just came up with it on the spot, just thinking about random cars that I would like to drive, but it is a Baja truck. Those things are sick. I don't care what anybody says. Those Baja trucks that are like jump over everything, and they can like brown are so cool, dude. I love them so much. I want to drive one so bad. Every time I see one, I think it looks awesome. And you can make like Ford Rangers into Baja trucks. Dude, imagine how cool that would be. I don't care who you are. That is cool. That sounds fun. Even if you're a stance car guy, you cannot lie and tell me that driving a freaking Baja truck over all these jumps and ramps and stuff wouldn't be incredibly fun. Like that would be so cool. That would be so cool. And it's like a realistic one to do too, because I feel like it's not that expensive to build a Baja truck. I don't know, maybe it is, but I don't think it is. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's a couple others out there, obviously, that I'm thinking of right now, but I don't want to waste too much more of your time. I am at 19 minutes already. Oh my God. All right, yeah, I got to end this video off. Jesus, I started rambling. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.